Women's March in 2017, but it's still relevant.
He loves people, but right now he's like...
Howdy doody.
You'll be on the first floor or second floor.
Can we come together? Save our future. Save our future. Take these problems. Find solutions. Find solutions. This is dire. We'll get through this. We'll get through this. Find our power. Find our power.
Ever since I was a young child in the 60s, I've been watching the degradation of our planet. And throughout, I just keep getting more and more frustrated, sad, to a point of depression because of what's going on in our environment.
We understand that it's not waste, it's a resource. And so we use that in many ways to grow plants as a second crop. So my one input was fish feed. I got the protein from the fish and I used all their waste to grow plants. So this greenhouse is 500 square feet, just to give you a visual. Over the last year, we erected a 12,000 square feet greenhouse. That's what I'm about to show you. That's the highlight of today. That's why we held an open house here. And one thing we're gonna talk to you about is not only did we build the greenhouse, but we just brought in energy storage. So we have a lithium ion battery that's tied into our solar grid. So the entire quarter-acre greenhouse will soon be islandable off of P&M completely. We will not be connected. We will have no power bill. Then a tilapia is a sustainable fish. Once we have our seedlings produced, we can put them in all types of systems here. This is right now a hydroponic system. And I'm making a clear distinction. Hydroponic is we add fertilizer to the water. This is turmeric, all right? There's a trend towards ginger and turmeric, all right? They're good for circulation. Nasturtium, all right? But these are edible. They're delicious. You guys are welcome to come by and pick one. The leaf tastes the same. We do dual credit, so we teach a lot of high school students. We have a high school class that designed a system there with buckets, 5-gallon buckets, and they're growing the long English cucumbers. Over here, we have systems that our students designed and built. In this tank is common carp. Anybody know the tall crop here? Sugarcane. We're probably the only sugarcane producer at 7,000 feet in the world. But look at this environment. It's perfect for sugarcane. And the fish are producing the nutrients that the sugarcane needs. Now back here, what you're starting to see is our commercial production. There's some channels here we call NFT. We have buckets over here we call Dutch buckets. And in these two areas is aquaponics, where the fish are controlling the nutrients for these plants. So we're gonna walk through and I'll meet you on the other side. Without getting all wet. Got it. You can let that open and do it. Oh, you did that on purpose. That's part of the job, right? That's part of the job. Thanks, Wyatt. What kind of fish is that? Do you know what kind of fish it is? What did you say? No. What's the other one? Nope, not a catfish. So Jack just told us that's tilapia.
Just not the top fin, because those are sharp. But on the side, you want to touch him?
Touch him! Touch him! Guys,
How long did it take you from hatchling to that?
4 months.
4 months.
He's about 4 months old.
4 months old.
But if you see how our plants, filter the water, this water is very, very nice. It's very clear, very clean.
Almost like mountain spring.
Yeah.
In here, we're gonna be running algae systems to produce algae for different kinds of things. We're gonna produce food out of aquaponic systems. If you don't know what's aquaponic, we grow fish, and fish produce 80 to 85% of the nutrients that the plants needs. And the plants become the filter of that system. So it's a natural and an organic way of growing. But we have a commercial unit that have 185 buckets. So we're gonna produce a lot of plants, a lot of tomatoes and a lot of cucumbers for the same college. So we're gonna be producing here most of the food that the culinary department is gonna be using for our students to learn how to cook and to eat. So yeah, I'm excited, I'm way excited. This greenhouse it's breathing, it's a living thing. It has a computer, so whenever it gets too hot, it turns fans in and it cools down. Whenever it gets too cold, it have heaters and it heats up, so it's a living greenhouse. Let's go. First harvest for the kitchen. Margaret, first harvest for the kitchen.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, that smells so good.
Uh-huh.
Definitely farm to table.
Lettuce. Thank you.
Stop. Cilantro.
Cilantro, look at that, fresh cilantro.
Exciting.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, classic.
And in the conversation, one of the things she just mentioned was we use a lot of cilantro, but I've never found a cilantro that tastes like the ones that we used to have in Singapore. So I thought, well, it could be fun to see if we could find that for her, grow it, and get her excited in that as a source of herb for her restaurant. And what I learned very quickly is there's really one cilantro species. There are a fair number of varieties, and if to seed all 18 varieties, we'll have 10 plugs for each variety. And although I haven't approached her yet with the idea of actually tasting these and giving me her opinion, it would be a fairly fun thing, I suspect. And maybe we can recruit some other chefs. And in this revised experiment or repeated experiment, we are going to take half of the plants and grow them aquaponically in deep water culture beds, and half we will grow hydroponically. So this is the plug. It's been growing from seed to this point. You can actually see the remnant of a seed on one of the primary leaves there for the last 4 weeks. And there's quite a healthy root growth with the main tap root and small auxiliary roots. This will now go into the net pod, and these will reach down and find the water and continue to grow along the bottom of the growing tray. This is what we expect to see when things are going really well. Very healthy cluster of plants, long white roots, 18 different varieties of cilantro, and the harvest from our aquaponics deep water culture rafts. We're going to go in a moment and weigh these and record the weights so we can get a sense of which ones did better in this system, and then compare it to growth in our nutrient film technique channels that are hydroponically fed. These are spindlier. They're tending to grow out in more of a splayed formation. So you can see very clearly that these have a much less advanced root system. And also, they tend to be a little browner than the ones growing in aquaponics. Well, the results are in. Totaling up the weight of the plants, the aquaponics plants weigh a total of 2.853 kilograms, representing 98 grams per plant on average. And on the aquaponics, the hydroponic side, 1.255 kilograms, coming in at 48 grams per plant, representing a twofold greater weight in the aquaponics system on average. It's pretty significant. Graciously allowed us to use the pastry. Yeah. You can come and taste this? Yeah. Please.
I'm Chloe, nice to meet you. How are you?
We grew 18 different varieties of cilantro in aquaponics and hydroponics. So this is the best 3 years at aquaponics.
Super cool.
And there are a lot of sort of very significant differences in lots of competitors.
Wow.
This is my treadmill desk, and I can work at my computer and walk at the same time. One of the things I was concerned about is not just the impact of energy use on climate change and obviously water issues here in the Southwest, but the connection to food and the amount of energy that we use when we eat food and the amount of water that the food we choose to eat uses. So for example, one hamburger has the equivalent of embedded water in it of about 600 gallons of water, which when you're saving water in a home and you think about the food you're eating, you really have to start thinking about making changes to your diet. And so I switched to eating a whole food plant-based diet, which is where you basically just eat plants and vegetables, because it was best for the environment. Eating higher up the food chain, eating animal products uses a lot more energy, a lot more water. It's also a lot healthier to eat lower down on the food chain. And so I started eating that way years ago. And since then, I've started teaching classes here at the community college for both employees and staff who work here, and then also in the continuing ed program, teaching plant-based nutrition and teaching people how to cook. Because part of the problem with people who want to make a switch to their diet is they have no idea what to eat apart from just eating a salad.
Yeah, so as a faculty here at Santa Fe Community College, we are encouraged to offer continuing education courses for community. The focus of a CE class is a crash course. It could be a 1-day, it could be a 2-day. And the reason we offer that and we get the interest that we have is because a lot of people have interest in these water-saving technologies for growing food, but they don't have 16 weeks or 32 weeks to take a semester or a year-long class that we often offer. So this gives them an opportunity to come in, and what Pedro and I focus on are the nuts and the bolts.
Learn the basics and the main things and how to build a small system, and so they can start. And if they really want to get into studying later on, they can do it. But
I would say the makeup of this course is similar to other courses where we have a diverse group sitting in front of us from, we had one gentleman here from California that has had, I would say 10 years experience in aquaponics. And we had a lady in class today that had no experience. She's never planted a seed before. But I do think that we sparked the interest in that person, that small scale grower, and I think she'll be one of the first to leave class and actually build a system.
Yep.
Before today's class, she's probably never picked up a power tool.
Yeah.
So by pushing the power tools into their hands, we're kind of breaking that fear, that phobia of actually cutting a pipe, gluing something together. So we, in many cases, we make those students do most of that work. And so she picked up skills right away, and that she's going to go home and most likely start a system. I expect I'll hear from her within a week, either asking for more help or she'll be bringing community members through here, giving tours. So with that in mind, I'd like to tell people everything I do is recruiting. So as I hold a course like this for community, it was only 11 people in the community, but now they're all going to go spread the word, and then they're going to spread the word. So I think we'll get students out of these courses, but really our goal was to get practical basic skills in the hands of new growers and let them start playing.
Anybody can take the class. It doesn't need to be, any age. The coolest thing to see is when people start building their own systems and they start seeing how it works and making it work and getting plants coming out of the system. So that's what I enjoy.
So people see this kind of activity. We post this on social media. We post it through different farm organizations. So the word's getting out there. The master gardeners are starting to pick this up.
We've been thinking about getting more advances CE classes other times to see if we get more people coming. Maybe more focus on hydro and other ones focus on aquaponics or soil beds or things like that.
And then we've used chlorella for many years, especially the Japanese. And so one of the unique attributes of chlorella is algae has a negative charge. So when you put it in your system, the metals will attract to it and you excrete a lot of the metals. And there's a big study that was used in Chernobyl where they used spirulina and chlorella to remediate the radiation levels in human beings. The Japanese are also doing that now after Fukushima. So those are 3 just algae products, but they're making, so if you think about algae, it grows 40 to 400 times faster. You can biomanufacture the products that you're looking for, right? Different sugars or different antibiotics, different components. And now that science has gotten to a level where you can actually understand what we're extracting and using and blending or combining with other products, we're getting much more efficient in the natural products market. Well, I mean, algae, so if you look at a pond and it's green, it means it's got sunlight and it's got nutrients. And so algae is a very rapid growing organism that can uptake sometimes constituents in the water that you want to filter out, and it's called polishing. So in the wastewater industry, when you have a pond at your wastewater facility, the microorganisms are doing the work to suck up the nitrogen and phosphorus so you can discharge that water, right? So they're sucking up the nutrients. At the same time, they're sucking up a lot of the metals and other components. So algae's long been used as a bioremediation tool to clean water and polish water. And it's, we have some experience in the oil and gas industry using produced water to grow algae. We're getting into some mining experience with some larger companies trying to bioremediate some water here in New Mexico so that we can remediate some land, which is kind of significant.
The project we're working on this morning is for using algae to remediate water from, remediate groundwater from old mining sites and seeing, quantifying how much metal could be taken out of that water and how clean it could be made for then remediating the landscape itself and providing a hopefully more lush environment so that those blasted mining sites can come back to life. We isolated a strain of algae on site and cultivated it here in the lab with our interns. And Max has been working on this experiment for 2 months now. We're at the point where we can start actually getting some data and understanding how much algae is doing what we want.
So this is Annie Padilla. She's one of our great success stories here at Santa Fe Community College. She actually started out as a high school student taking dual credit classes in biofuels. Is that right?
That's correct. And I was lucky enough to be able to take an environmental science class here. And that led me to the biofuels program. And then after the biofuels program, I saw what opportunities they had as far as environmental science and off-grid lifestyle. So then I took the solar program and loved that. And then I found the CEA, which was Controlled Environment and Agriculture, and fell in love with that as well. And I'm about to graduate with my CEA certificate and associate.
So my name is Zachary DeLay. I am a current student here at the community college. I've been going to school since 2016 here, and since we actually get a chance to really do hands-on work here in the lab especially, this actually pertains to anything I'm doing out in the real world too. So all these skills and everything that I'm learning here, and anybody who's back here will be able to take a position as like a biotech or any kind of lab tech position.
All right, I'm Zanzia Eklund, and I'm one of the student interns on the BHP project. So what we're doing is seeing what algae can grow in the water from Ambrosia Lake, and we're trying to see which algae can take the heavy metals from Ambrosia Lake.
Okay, so currently we're working on that BHP Bulletin project, which is the Ambrosia Lakes area in New Mexico, Grants, New Mexico, and it's a legacy site for uranium mining. So our part of the project, we have other affiliates. The National Renewable Energy Labs is managing this project for BHP. We're working with NMSU, who's doing some plant growth trials in their soil, and then we're also working with Oregon State that does all the nuclear testing or radioactive soil testing for us. So, you know, we're the local boots on the ground, New Mexico frontline, trying to use algae to remediate the Ambrosia Lakes aquifer so we can bring the water back down below background so it can be applied for the soil. And we've been working on this about a year. Plants are growing, they're getting plants to grow, the algae's growing. This is a biofuels project originally in the vision of NREL and BHP. They're going to take the oil out of the algae, which is not contaminated, and turn it into a biofuel. Then they're going to reduce the rest of the material by making energy and get the offending materials out of there, the radium and uranium, out of the water, and be able to clean up the land by using the water on the land, grow land crops, same thing as the algae, growing land crops to produce oil seeds at the same time of producing biomass that will hold the remediated radioactive material and then reduce it down to a smaller component. So it's really an energy project at this point. We're a go again for 2020 since we hit all of our benchmarks this past year. So we're really excited to, keep our students involved in it and do something relative here in our state.
This adventure started in about 2011. So locally, I sell at the Santa Fe Farmers Market. On Saturdays, I'm out there, and then nationally through my website. I ship it all over the place, and just actually recently started selling in Europe now too. I'm the only one in New Mexico doing this right now. And there's one other gentleman in Southern California and outside in the Palm Desert. We're the only two in the United States doing this right now. I would like to see more people cultivating spirulina because the footprint that you need for a farm is really small. Between the two greenhouses, I have 5,500 square feet of greenhouse. So it's a minimal footprint. People think living in the United States, everything is hunky-dory here. There's, no one's hungry. It's actually not true. Just in our state of New Mexico, we have 3 out of 5 kids are going to bed hungry at night in this state. And I don't need to be going to Africa or India to help feed people. We need to be doing it right here, and that's what I'm part of. Finding a piece of land, that was really, really difficult challenge. And that's why I'm grateful to the college to have stepped up here, and because I was kind of ready to leave the state, but they heard what was going on, and they said, no, we want you here, and so this has been fantastic. And it's been really great to have the ability to have students come down here, work on the farm too. As I'm inside a greenhouse, I'm minimizing water evaporation, and between these two greenhouses, all my cleaning, everything, processing, you name it, for the whole season, I roughly use about 20,000 gallons of water. It goes through a 50 micron mesh, so all the spirulina is caught up in that mesh and the water gets recycled back into the system, into the ponds. You take that spirulina, we press it to eliminate roughly 80% of the water, and that we make into spaghettis that then ends up, and once the spaghettis are dry, it's about 4% water content left in the spirulina, between 3 and 4%. And that's your end product. And you put that through a food processor, if you will, and you come up with the little sprinkles, and then it's packaged and ready to be tossed into your smoothie.
If you talk to the developers, oh, we've got all the water we need. If you talk to oh, we've got all the water if we need, if we take it from agriculture. I should have qualified that. The cities are busy doing things like buying up farms for their water rights. Santa Fe has bought a lot of farmland, taken out of production. That's one of the things. So they're getting water and sacrificing food because we're going to import food from somewhere else. Now we're going to have a higher carbon footprint. In the 50s, New Mexico grew most of all of its own food. Today, it's probably 4 or 5%. The rest of it's imported. So if we ever lose the trains and the highways, we're running out of food pretty quick. Then we have our own wastewater treatment plant. In our discharge permit, we put it into evaporation ponds. So we have 2 big ponds for collecting that water. And then that water we can use for irrigating the campus. That's what our permit allows right now. Even though it's a water treatment program for technicians, it's really an engineering, biology, and chemistry program all roll into one. And so most people coming into the program don't want to hear engineering, math, chemistry, and biology. They want to know, how do I run the machine to run the pumps to do this stuff? And so we use the water program as kind of part of what we call stealth STEM, where we don't tell them they're taking science and math and biology and things like that. We just put them in there, and then they figure out on their own, oh, I need to learn this stuff. And especially for like chemistry, no one wants to take chemistry. They've always heard it's horrible, they're never going to take chemistry. And so we put them in the water chemistry class, but we tell them, we're just going to teach you enough so that you can clean up the water. And then we teach them in chemistry class. And it is more of an applied science. The chemistry class is really based on water chemistry. The microbiology class is really based on the microbiology of the wastewater plant.
As Steve was saying, it's not that there isn't enough water. It's that where is the water? Have we overutilized what was there for us, and have we mismanaged our resources? The answer to that is yes, we have. And really, we need to be much better managers of the resources. Are we getting there? Yeah, that's what's some of the fun of the college, is that you can bring in these systems and see what I can do. So even the water that's entrained in the solids, I can actually take that as a soil amendment and put it out there, and it goes for growing foodstuffs or hay for whatever. But so that's water that doesn't have to be drawn out and field applied because it's already carried in that secondary waste. Well, the secondary waste really becomes a fertilizer.
Well, here, this is part of the roof water catchment system for this building. This building was designed to capture the roof water here and apply it for flushing toilets and things like that in this building in order to save on the potable water supply that comes in from the county. What we're changing over to now is, since we now have the greenhouse program, is making that water available for cooling, for useful water in the aquaponics and the greenhouse or the controlled environment and agriculture program. Why our water conservation program here is very important, that we know there's going to be worldwide water shortages, and we're in Santa Fe blessed with a community that, one, we're in the arid desert, and we recognized water conservation as being an important part of our water supply in Santa Fe a long time ago. And so our community, our town has really gotten behind both putting a program together here at the community college and really advanced applications of water conservation throughout the city. And so we are now a model nationally, and we're trying to take the models and the steps we've taken here and use those as part of our teaching, that we can share that nationally, internationally. We're working on putting all of these programs for water conservation as online classes, so you don't have to be in Santa Fe in order to take them, because we know we have a great resource for that. We also like to be a test bed, looking at opportunities and testing out ideas that some of the people in our water conservation industry, from roof water catchment, water treatment, and get all those ideas and allow this to be a place to test things. 3 years ago, the amount of water consumed by electricity generation passed agricultural water consumption. Now, it goes back and forth. It's not like 100% line there, but it almost as much or a little bit more water is now used in electric generation than is used in agriculture. Most people don't realize how water intensive electricity generation is.
One of the things that Luke and I specifically talk about now is finding the funding to build this energy storage and microgrid training center, basically actual equipment that students can put their hands on, so that when they go out into the world and they want jobs with companies like Siemens or P&M or actually a lot of like industrial automation type stuff, facilities management, they will have had a real system to put their hands on, and so that's our goal right now, and it's moving forward.
A LEED Platinum, there are LEED Gold, Silver, and Platinum facilities. It's the highest LEED facility that one can achieve. The building is a self-sustained facility in that it is solar heated and cooled. So the building is able to produce and generate its own energy to cool it in the summertime and heat it in the wintertime. It's an incredible teaching tool for students, and that's really, again, part of my vision is to involve students in every part of capital infrastructure that the college invokes. So if we design a new facility, if we construct a new facility, if we renovate a facility, it's our goal to include the students so they not only learn for the process of design and construction, but they also can use that facility as a teaching tool down the road for whether it be for plumbing, electrician, sustainable growth. Specifically, Sandia National Laboratory is working with us on what we call a nanogrid, which is part of our campus microgrid. A nanogrid would be one source of distributed energy. There will be a number once we evolve to a full microgrid. And Sandia National Laboratories has been very advantageous partner in that they are actually going to help us with our stored energy, our battery, and they are actually helped us with funding that battery, and they will help us to look at that battery in full operation and take that data and perfect the operation of that battery over time. The nanogrid, which again is designed to serve as a distributed energy system for the greenhouse, which is a new facility we built. It's 11,000 square foot controlled environment greenhouse. The battery has been coupled with the photovoltaic system. We have a 14,000 watt or 14 kV PV system that is energizing that greenhouse. We'll ultimately have switchgear that the greenhouse will be hooked up to along with that photovoltaic system. We're going to operate these facilities to the best of our ability so we don't impact the climate. And we've done that. Since I've been here, we've brought this campus to about 50% renewable energy resources. We have our own photovoltaic plant. We have solar thermal systems on campus. We have geothermal wells on campus. We have the entire gamut of renewable energy resources, and we use those resources. So we have a low impact to climate, and we in fact try and not impact the climate to the best of our ability. And that's what it takes to be a sustainable college. You really have to look at your environment and your climate and make sure that you reduce the impact to the environment and climate so you can operate in a fairly neutral way, and at the same time involve those students so they can gain that knowledge and use that experience throughout their careers.
And our students are trying to design a way to light it up at night using photovoltaics so it can be completely off-grid. We had looked into doing it tied to the grid because we have electrical outlets not far from the whale, but then we'd have to run wires across our track. And we don't want, that's a trip hazard obviously, so the students are working on designing it so that it can run on an off-grid photovoltaic system, and that's our project. How do we light this thing up using, and I think we're here, we can put 2 5,000 lumen LED shop lights inside of the whale, running it off either of these charge controllers and 1 battery and that inverter. And so we can run that, and it should be able to run for 2 cloudy days is our estimation. So, and in a pinch, if we really wanted to, we could have 2 batteries, each charged by a separate charge controller, 2 modules, and have 4 days of autonomy. So we're gonna go, but we live in Santa Fe. We're not gonna have 4 days of cloudy days in a row. So I think 2 days, and like we were talking about, I like the idea of it's 2 cloudy days, the 3rd cloudy day, we can either decide to turn half the lights off or have the whole thing just shut down when it runs out of power.
Seems to me both faith and science work together to help offer opportunities for the human mind and spirit to engage in positive thoughts about the future that are of such a nature that they motivate those humans to do something differently than what they are. Go back to the creation, fall, redemption. Well, how do you motivate people to live differently than the way they're currently living if you're not giving them hope that this is what will help not just my life, your life, but the next generation's life. You know, part of this whole discussion right now is, can we live in such a way so that our great-grandchildren have an Earth that's habitable? And we're not going to be able to do that if we don't have hope. So its gift is to help us address the future. There are more people around the globe more committed to addressing these Earth care issues than there are here. Now, it doesn't mean that people in the United States, they don't talk very much about it. They believe that, the Earth is warming, climate is changing, and most of them believe, well, that's going to affect me, and not just the people on the other side of the globe. But they don't get around to talking with anybody. 66%, according to a Yale study I heard about, don't ever mention climate change to their neighbors in any kind of a conversation. We must do better than that and join the rest of the world community in this paying attention to such a critical development in our lives.
And if you look at how the program's grown in 8 short years, it's amazing that we have the infrastructure of this building and all of these programs around it, right? So when you say, what are we going to do over the next 10 years? Hopefully we evolve as much as we did in the past 8 years. Maybe NTX Bio out here, I keep teasing them that they're going to come up with some kind of inoculation to make us more compassionate, empathic human beings and realize what we have around us. They keep laughing and they're like, is that a sobriety treatment? Or no, it's just, how do you get human beings to kind of pull it together at this point. So, you know, for us, it's not technology anymore. It's kind of the human experiment, watching what goes on. And, you know, I think you've learned in the last year, you can walk around and all of these are kind of validated technologies. Countries are using them, big corporations use them, small farmers use it, and, you know, cities use it. So these are all applicable skills for people. And I think as we get into, you know, I've been pitching for 8 years that if you're in food, energy, water, or waste, you're actually going to have a job for a long, long time because those are critical issues. You know, whether you're turning the waste into energy or a downstream product, those will be valuable jobs over the next 10, 15 years.